The anxious creative. What do you do when you want to create so bad, but your mind and your body just will not let you? Your mind is overcome and seized by projects and ideas and things that you want to do, all these things that you want to make. But it's like you just can't. You can't. The thought of execution is like this ginormous mountain in front of you. And before you can even start to think to overcome, you get to that base of the mountain and you're stuck. And even worse, you're stuck in quicksand and you're sinking. You're stuck in this quicksand of your thoughts, your doubts, your fears, society, failure, failure. And this quicksand just incapacitates you every single passing day. And it's like, what do you do? How do you combat anxiety with creativity, anxiety in your artwork? What do you do? And to be honest with you, I'm not really sure, but as an anxious creative, I've been thinking about it a lot. And I've really been thinking about how to improve my creative process, how to improve the way I handle my creativity, especially as I'm thinking about how I can engage with my creativity full time and how my creativity can sustain me and give me this freedom, finances, and emotionally give me this freedom and just to be able to sustain your life so I can kind of exit out of this corporate world and like the societal world and the lifestyle that is kind of pushing me towards. I want to be in my full creative mode. I want to give 120%, 200% to my creativity. And I've been thinking about one of the biggest kind of obstacles in my creativity, and I think that's been this anxiety to create and this anxiety that's been stopping me create. I think I've mentioned it a little bit before in like a past video that I made in the Just Go With It video, but there came a time where I went from just being able to just dive into these projects without reservation to just kind of feeling stuck and like being so overwhelmed with so much that I just didn't do anything. And I've been working on it a lot. I've been working on it constantly. It's something I've been wanting to fix, but I've really just sat down and I've been thinking and I've been putting words to paper and just trying to organize things and just compile this, I don't want to say a Bible, but this system that can get me through and that can keep me efficient, that can keep me content and happy with artwork and push me further in my creativity, like I said, as a way to kind of sustain me in living. And I've thought about a few things. The other day I really sat down and I thought about combating the anxiety part of it, let alone the discipline part of it, let alone all these other kind of workflows and management. But I really thought about combating the anxiety that's been hindering me in my artwork, and I've came up with a few things. I felt that I should share them in case there are other anxious creators out there that are struggling and maybe are just looking for a way as well. So I think let's just dive into it. First and foremost, I've been thinking about being prepared. And with being prepared, I've been thinking about studying your tasks, right? Getting this confidence from the knowledge that you know. But with that, there's this caveat. There's this discipline where you don't want to be so focused on learning, where you're not doing any action because you're kind of worried and you lack this confidence in yourself to have the knowledge to do. But studying and being prepared and getting knowledge in a way that you can address the task. So that's why I say studying for the task. So in my mind, I think like, let's say if I'm doing a sewing project, something that stresses me out with sewing for some reason are zippers. So let's say I have a sewing project and a pattern that I want to do. Everything else is pretty smooth flowing, but the idea of a zipper can literally stop me from even completing the whole project and let it sit for years. Ask me how I know. So like with that, if I'm about to engage into a project where I know there's a zipper, I'll sit down and I'll just go over videos and study different ways of people doing different types of zippers, people doing invisible zippers, Japanese zippers, jean zippers, etc. And I'll familiarize myself with the task and start preparing to kind of dive into the project. That way, when the task comes, it won't stress me out too much. And another part with being prepared is making sure that I have all my materials in front of me and at hand to get me going, get me started. That way I don't have any obstructions in my work where, I need a button. Let me go to the store and buy a button. After I finally got it started, I've gotten myself into the flow of creativity, and then all of a sudden, boom, I need to stop and disrupt and get these things. So kind of being prepared and having my tools at hand with me. I think depending on your medium, the tools that you keep or that you need can be minimal, and you can just with some things you can just kind of get all your tools online, but with some things you have to go out to the store and you have to plan. So just being prepared and having those tools in front of you. The next thing that I would say is to enter your creative space, wherever that may be. If you have like a space in your room or like you have a studio, even when you're not ready to do, just go into the space, browse around, touch your tools, touch your pencil, your pen, your clay, your paintbrushes, your needles, your things for woodwork, etc. Just go in there and just be in your environment, sit down, maybe read a little book, watch a video, and just be in your environment. Because I've noticed, like, one of the biggest things to do is get started, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's so much easier to get started when you're in that space and you're already down there. Getting started, part of getting started is being present, right? So that action of going to your studio space and allowing yourself to be present will allow you to eventually get started. I found that, like, for example, literally, I started my home pottery studio to have more access to my work, and literally I've had times where I've just gone a month not doing anything, and the studio is literally right downstairs. I literally thought to myself, like, when it's in my house, like, I'm not gonna have any problems to be right there every day, all day, every day, grind. But literally it's like right downstairs, and sometimes I'm just like, But I realized, like, once I go down there, it's a wrap. Once I go down there and I start touching that clay, don't let me put something on the wheel, it's over with. I'm lost in a daze doing my thing for hours, and all I really had to do was get down there and get started and be present in that space. And with getting started, I go into a next topic, and that would be start easy and start fun. So something about me is I'm very much a delayed gratification type of person. I'm the type of person where it's like, if I have things that I need to do or like things I need to take care of, even if I'm not looking forward to it, I feel like I have to do it before I can do the fun stuff, before I can keep moving forward. And I think delayed gratification will get you far in life, but sometimes it can leave you stuck. It can lead to anxiety of like, dang, I have all these big tasks that I need to do, and now I feel stuck. So that's why I say, like, sometimes you need to start fun and easy. Do some of the fun tasks some of the easy tasks is almost your warm up. Your warm up into your bigger projects and into your creativity. Because even when we exercise, even when we do things, we need warm ups, right? So you do those easier tasks to help you enter that flow zone. Because once you're in your flow zone, the rest is like history. Like I said, like, once you're in your flow zone, it's not going to take you much to get to the difficult parts because you're already in it. You're already doing it. You're already moving. You're in motion. Your body is in motion. There's this funny creator. I don't know his name, but he does. If you look up Haitian motivation, you'll see it on TikTok. And he does like motivations, but like with a Haitian accent and like with a Haitian nuance and connotations. And I just think it's the funniest thing, but it's so real. And he had this one video where he's like, "Hey, body in motion stays in motion." And it's funny, but it's like so dead serious. And it's like a body emotion stays in motion. So once you start easy and you get into the flow of things and you start moving forward, and it's like next thing you know, boom, you're doing it, you're in a task, and you can kind of start finishing and you can keep moving forward. So that's why I say, like I said, start easy, start fun sometimes. Like, keep that discipline, keep the delayed gratification, because like the studies show, like it's more long lasting and it stays. But when you're having difficulties and you just need to get started, start light, start easy, do the warm up to get into it. The next thing that I've been thinking about, and I would say, is to create systems. And I feel like systems has just become a bigger part of my life as I've gotten older, especially I think corporate America. We all bash corporate America, but it can teach you things. One of my like recent corporate jobs, I was around a lot of like program managers and a lot of project managers, and just being in the corporate world and seeing how businesses run, I've seen like how systems can really be impactful in the work that you do. And regardless of corporate, regardless of whatever you're doing, the world operates in systems, the world operates in patterns. So just having the system in place where it's just mindless, you can just revert to, it's not too hard, it's not too difficult. You know, in order to do a project, no matter what the project is, there are set core principles and standards of things that you need to get done that you don't even have to think about. You can just straight go into and move forward. And that way there won't be any surprises, right? There won't be anything taking you aback where it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I was going to have to do this. And if you do, if you've done your systems, you've done something that is transferable to the work that you need to do moving forward. So I think having those systems in place just makes things easier for you. It makes things more seamless, and it lets you reallocate your mental capacity and your energy into bigger things. Once you have systems in place, you don't have to be worried about, oh, what's this next? You can think about bigger and better things with your creativity. So I think starting systems and creating systems is very important. Like I said, I've been trying to put a system to everything, low-key, and it's worked. To be honest with you, it's worked. As I've wrote down my process and thought of my process and thought about what I've been trying to do, I feel like it helps me accomplish things so fast. Like every time I do something and I'm like, oh, okay, this is how I did it. Let me write this down so I don't forget it. And I have it in the future. Like I have Notion pages. I'm like, let me put this stuff down. Let me organize these things and get a system going. As soon as I think about something I want to do, I'm like, let me start a Notion page and start organizing and compiling my thoughts and planning a system that can get me the outcomes that I want. And I think going into the next thing, something that I've realized recently, and that is, or I think it's right now it's a theory, but I'm almost positive it's a law. And that is become obsessed. And it's not that is that become obsessed. The moral is, I think obsession beats anxiety. I feel like anxiety doesn't have a chance against obsession. So become obsessed with your work in a reasonable fashion, right? I'll talk about that a little bit later, but become obsessed with the work that you do, because once you're obsessed, once you get into that flow zone, it's a wrap. You anxiety doesn't have the space, because now your mind is over consumed with this project and this passion and this thing that you're doing right now. And you have this project that you're doing, you're like, I have to see through to the end. I have to get through to the end. Anxiety doesn't have a chance. Babe, she can't enter. She's outside. She's like a vampire, and you have garlic. You have garlic outside your door. Anxiety cannot come in once obsession is taking place. So become obsessed, but become obsessed reasonably, right? I feel like if you're creating and you're building this life for yourself, you should be able to enjoy it. So don't become obsessed to a point where it's making you miserable and it's making you sad, but become obsessed in a way that you can get things done. You can push forward. Anxiety won't have any room to enter because you're so obsessed with your work and your task. Like I said, with reason. With reason. And next thing, I think this is one of the most important things, and it's been something that I've been thinking about a lot recently. And that is having grace with yourself and having self-compassion. This past weekend, I found this video and I was like, oh my gosh. The video was Self-Compassion, the antidote to shame. And that video clicked something in me, and it granted me this missing piece of a puzzle that I've just needed to connect these dots and to paint this picture that I've been trying to put together for so long. And pretty much what the premise of the video is, the man was explaining, was how shame can manifest itself as anxiety. And when I thought about anxiety, I really was not thinking about the shame aspect. The way I think about anxiety is, I think about anxiety as you're either anxious about your environment and your actual physical safety. That's one half. And then another half is you're anxious about the future and you're anxious about the outcomes that you can control. And I think with that second half of the unknown, the anxiety about the unknown, it's split between two. It's split between a bit of, like I said, the environment and your actual physical well-being and your safety. But another part of it is the shame, the unknown of if you're going to succeed, if you're going to do well, if you're going to get the praise, if you're going to get the acknowledgement. And that's in its core is shame. And I realized with the anxiety in my creativity, it's seeming very well that it's probably connected to shame. It's connected to the thought of failing. It's connected to the thought of not being able to succeed. It's connected to the thought of disappointing myself and feeling ashamed of myself. And until that video, it just didn't really click for me that way. And now that I know, I'm like, wow. So that self-compassion is really what it takes to kind of mitigate that, right? And just to start combating that, to start stopping that, and having compassion, having grace. I talked about a little bit, I think on a recent video on TikTok I just made. I was literally thinking late at night. But I saw this TikTok creator, her name was Wonton, and she was talking about people who are really successful in the work that they do, and how it comes to, they have this unwavering self-conviction and self-confidence and self-belief in themselves. And it's how do you have that unwavering self-belief and conviction is to have that self-grace, that when you fail 100 times, you're still worthy of that success. You're still worthy of what you want to get. You're still worthy to get back up because you have self-grace, and because you won't let those losses knock you down forever. You have that self-grace to get back up and to keep going. So now I feel like I'm trying to like log in on my self-compassion and self-grace even more. And to be honest with you, self-compassion and self-love and self-grace has been like a journey that I've been on for like some time now. I was reading my journal and I look back, and I was looking back to about 2 years ago that I started making these definitive statements about the type of self-love and self-compassion and self-grace that I will be practicing and I will be upholding myself to, and the self-grace that I will start granting myself. And I was like, when I saw this video about empathy, the ambulance, when I saw this video about compassion and self-grace, I was like, wow, I need to lock in even further. Let me let this ambulance pass. I don't know when this is going to go. Okay, it's gone pretty soon. But I was like, I really need to lock in. And it's by fire, by force. Like, I will love myself by fire, by force. And not even gonna lie, I've seen the difference in life and every day. And it's helped me get through so much by just allotting myself more grace, because I feel like I've always been the type that's been really hard on myself, and that's not gonna go away anytime soon. But now I have this self-love and self-conviction where once upon a time, I think I was operating in this capacity, in this state where it's like, I want to do better because I feel this need to improve myself, and I feel this need to fix myself. But once I shifted in the flow and in the motion of self-compassion and self-love, now I do things out of, I love myself and I'm deserving of these things. So I should give these things to myself because I'm worthy, because I'm fine. Even if I stand stationary, I'm worthy. And that's something I have a hard time sitting still. When I'm not doing, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? But I've been making myself sit still. I did therapy for a little while. I didn't do it for long because I don't think it really worked as much for me and the problems that I had at the moment. But one big thing I really took away from her is sitting in those feelings and just sitting in yourself. You should find contentment. You should find love in yourself regardless of what you're doing. If you're sitting still, you should still be able to love and feel like you're a valid human being. I know capitalism makes us think we need to be on go every 500 seconds, but you should be happy and comfortable and content with yourself. And I feel like the biggest testament and the biggest indicator of when you find yourself getting somewhere is when you can really sit down in peace and be content with yourself, without the fancy things, without the accolades, without anything else. You just sit down, be still, and be who you are as a human, as a spirit, as a soul, and be content with yourself. I think once you get to that spot, I think that's when you really know you're really at a good state of self-love and self-peace. Yeah, once you get to that spot without hating yourself, and once you get to that spot and still love yourself, you're really at a good point. But that's really about it, what I've had so far. And I think that's pretty solid for me right now. I don't know if I'll add more to the list or if I think more later, but I think as I go and as I keep trying and as I keep learning, I'll keep writing things down and I'll keep making notes of things. But that's all for me today. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that it can be helpful to somebody else out there. And if you have things in your process and in your system that you've been coming to understand and that you've been working on, please leave in a comment. Let me know. I'm like so open to learn, and I love to hear new things and new outcomes. Like I said, even just watching videos here and there can spark things in you. So like, please share in the comment section. If you've enjoyed, like, comment, and subscribe. And that's it for me today, guys. See you in the next one. Bye.